welcome back. Today, I want to share with you some of my favorite cookbooks. It's rainy today, kind of gray out, and it puts me in the mood to make soup. So I thought it would be a good day to tap and trace on some cookbooks. I really enjoyed the last book ASMR video that I did, so I want to make book content a little more regular on my channel, and I love cookbooks. We'll do some page flipping, and I'll read you a few recipes and show you some of the things that I like to make. So I'm kind of teasing you with this first one here, so I'll give you a more full view of it. This is the Everyday Ayurveda Cookbook by Kate O'Donnell. The subtitle is A Seasonal Guide to Eating and Living Well, with over 100 recipes for simple, healing foods. And the photographs in this book are by Kara Brostrom, and I believe she helped with some of the recipe development as well. I really like Kate O'Donnell. I have 2 of her cookbooks, and I just discovered her this year during my study of Ayurveda, and she's great. And the reason that I love this cookbook is because the recipes are truly simple. And a lot of cookbooks will say they have simple, easy recipes, but these truly are. Okay, so if we dive into this one, it's got some very colorful pages. It's a very well organized cookbook, and I like that. If we look at the table of contents, you can see that there are several sections to this book. The first is a part 1 about understanding Ayurveda. Chapter 1, Ayurveda Basics You Want to Know. Number 2, the Principles of Ayurvedic Eating. And Chapter 3, From Theory to Practice in the Kitchen with Everyday Ayurveda. And then the best part about this book is that the recipes are divided into 5 sections. The first are what she calls everyday recipes. So they are, as she says, foundational dishes for year-round cooking. And then she has a section for spring, summer, fall, and winter recipes. And I really love following the seasons when I eat, and she presents that in a really accessible and simple way. And I've really gotten a lot out of the recipes in this book. And then she has all these appendices with different how-tos and extra information about Ayurveda. So I think I will read to you a paragraph from the beginning of this book. And here is a beautiful photograph of a masala box full of spices. It's a metal box with little open containers of spices in it, so the lid goes over the whole top, but the spices within can kind of meld and their aromatics can intermingle. I do not currently have a spice box like this, but it would be neat to have someday, and certainly very beautiful. And she says in her introduction, "Here's what this book is meant to do. Get you in the kitchen. Not for big projects, but for simple preparations most days. Maybe even every day. You may or may not fall in love with cooking, but it's important to know that preparing food for yourself is a key element of wellness. This book will keep it simple, practical, and functional. The goal is not to create fancy or perfect meals, but to be satisfied by your food. Some days this may mean having a treat. Other days it may mean keeping your food really basic to serve as fuel for your day. The food in this book provides plenty of variety, but it is based on simplicity. Ayurveda is the indigenous health science of India, a way of understanding balance and imbalance in the body so that we can avoid the progression of disease by addressing the causes early on. The inspiration behind the Everyday Ayurveda Cookbook is to demystify this ancient science, which truly has something in it to help everyone. A huge part of staying healthy, in the Ayurveda view, lies in proper digestion and nutrition. The foods we eat become the tissues of the body, and the attitudes we bring to the table contribute to the body's ability to digest and integrate food nicely. Being aware of what the body needs as we choose our foods and wishing the body well as we prepare them go a long way toward helping us feel good." And I love that introduction. It gives a simple definition of Ayurveda and really kind of sums up my personal philosophy about food too. I agree with everything that she says here about, listening to ourselves and just how important it is to prepare nourishing foods for ourselves. And that's such a basic element of wellness that just doesn't seem to receive the value that I think it deserves in sort of our societal hierarchy of what constitutes a good use of time. Making a homemade meal isn't always high up on that list, and I think it should be. So this kind of cookbook can be really helpful, in getting a start down that path to cooking foods for yourself. So I'm going to flip through this a bit. She has a lot of wonderful information in the opening sections on Ayurveda philosophy and sort of food recommendations and practices. So if you're looking for that sort of thing, it does give you that background. Show you this fun illustration with a bunch of different herbs and spices here. Try to situate myself. There's some star anise. Those are always fun. I use those in chai, not for a lot else, but I should learn to get more creative with them. There's some ginger root. I have to look more closely here. Coriander seeds, fennel seeds, some salt, some hing, which is a very potent Indian spice, which I've actually never tried. Let's see, what else do we have down here? Some cardamom pods, some turmeric, cloves, cilantro, and peppercorns. Oh no, I'm sorry, those aren't peppercorns, those are mustard seeds. Heavens, don't want to get those mixed up. So I will show you an example of how she presents these everyday recipes. For example, here is the everyday creamed grain cereal, which is a very, very simple recipe, something that you might not even need a recipe for, but that's what I like about this book. It doesn't assume anything. Here's a nice creamy bowl of porridge. And then you can see down on this side she has this little chart which gives you the basics of the recipe on this side and then gives you a variation for each season: spring, summer, fall, and winter. So this porridge, for example, she suggests making with amaranth or rye in the spring, quinoa or barley in the summer, and oats or bulgur wheat in the fall and winter. And she gives a suggestion for which type of milk you might want to use in each season, what things you might want to top your porridge with. And it's just really interesting, and I like the whole idea of seasonal eating because I like doing things cyclically. You know, I like having certain things that I do at certain times of the day or certain times of the year, and I've really gotten into the idea of trying to get my nutrition over a broader span of time. I think, you know, a lot of the nutrition information we receive is based around everything you're supposed to eat in a day, and that can be kind of intimidating to me sometimes. So I've started to think instead of what do I eat over the course of a week, and what does my diet look like over the course of a year, and it can just be sort of interesting and enlightening to think about things that way. So she has an everyday frittata in here. This is one that I love very much because this is kind of the way that I cook. She has everyday cream of anything soup. So it gives you just really basic guidelines for combining vegetables and boiling them up, cooking them up in water, and pureeing them, adding some creamy, flavorful elements, and you got yourself a soup. And this little chart actually inspired me just the other day to make a pureed kale and green bean soup, which was really delicious. And I'd never thought of putting green beans into a pureed soup before, but I had some that I needed to use, and it came out bright green and beautiful and very revitalizing. So here's a beautiful steamed salad bowl. Quinoa and kale and carrots. She encourages us to eat most foods cooked rather than eating a lot of raw smoothies and salads and things like that. That is an Ayurvedic recommendation that definitely works well for me to eat a lot of foods warm. Here is a bowl of everyday khichdi. Khichdi is a staple in Ayurvedic cooking. It is basically a really simple dal, a really simple dish of yellow split mung beans and rice that very easy to digest and very gentle on the digestive system. So that's something that you can enjoy when you need something light and something that will be gentle with your system. And she gives seasonal variations for that as well. And then you get into the sections on each season. So since we're in the fall season now, I will show you the fall recipes. This section starts with a guide to fall foods and lifestyle and activity guidelines for the season, and then a shopping list of foods. And basically for fall, this makes sense when you think about the season being damp and being kind of cold. You want to favor foods that are warm, moist, slightly oily, and building, because the fall and winter is a time when we're building up our tissues, and then in the spring and the summer we're more cleansing and sort of breaking down tissues in the body. That's a very very general thing, but to think about the fall and winter as a time for building. So she has a lovely recipe here for cranberry butternut muffins. They look lovely. She has lots of great recipes for baked goods that are made with a lot of nuts and oats and coconut and not a lot of flour and sugar and refined ingredients, so that you can make baked goods that really do satisfy you and fulfill you and don't just leave you, hungry and wanting another one. We have fall roasted spiced vegetables with whipped tahini sauce. And I often make, this is a beautiful photo, beets and butternut squash and other root vegetables. And I often make this tahini sauce, which is basically just tahini and lemon juice and oil, olive oil, and salt. And you mix it together, and it's delicious on just about anything. For lunch, a lot of the time, will have a bowl of quinoa or rice with some vegetables on top, and maybe some beans or other protein and a sauce. And this is one of my go-to sauces. So when in doubt, combine some tahini and some lemon juice, and it will make your food delicious. She also has a cream of broccoli soup, apple crisp. I just made her apple crisp recipe the other night, and it was delicious. Baked apples. Ooh, I really want to try these sesame cookies. These are cookies made with tahini. And like I said, I like this cookbook because it is a very healthy, nourishing, nutritious cookbook, but there are also lots of treats in it. Okay, so I think that's a good sampling of this one. I'm flipping through the winter section too, because those are always my favorite recipes. I want to try her black bean and oat burger, and even though it's not quite, I'll take a detour here. I have made these collard green wraps with bean pate, red lentil pate, and rice in them, and they are really good. I love using collard greens as a wrapper like that. So that's good balance. I'll show you something that I make with collard greens. And then just last night, actually, I made these almond ginger macaroons. Not macarons, macaroons. Try to show you that image there. and they were delicious. I actually, of course, did a different variation on the recipe, because isn't that what we always do? I used cashews in them instead of almonds, and they were delicious. So I will probably have one of these with a cup of tea after I finish this video. So I definitely look forward to continuing to use this cookbook, and like I said, it's a really fun one because it's a practical one. So if you are wanting to try to cook for yourself more and cook more wholesome foods, but it seems too complicated and you don't know where to start, I recommend this cookbook. So this is the cookbook I am using the most currently at the moment. Next up, I have my oldest and most beloved cookbook. I debated on whether to show this to you because it's certainly not very photogenic. But check this out. This is my copy, my original copy of Vegan with a Vengeance by Chandra Moskowitz. It is lovingly held together with duct tape, as you can see. And I have it written in here. I got this cookbook in 2007. That was when I first kind of started cooking more for myself, and I had decided that I wanted to be vegan at that time, and I was vegan for about 6 or 7 years, and then eventually added back in some local eggs and dairy to my diet, and that's where I am now with that. But I love this cookbook, and the very first home-cooked foods that I ever made came from here, so I can't even trace the whole thing for you. I can trace Egan with an engence over 150 delicious, cheap, animal-free recipes that rock. And oh dear sweet Isa, you're very young, and your face is all worn there in my copy of this. But I will show you in the front of this. I mean, look at this. Like, it's insane, but it's well loved. I have in the table of contents, I have underlined every recipe in here that I had made. So it's a good many of them. And the first section in this cookbook is brunch, and I probably make more recipes from that section than any other. I don't really know why, but she is the one. Isa taught me to make scrambled tofu, so that is a good basic breakfast treat. This is her pancake recipe. Look at this page and how dirty it is. This is the pancake recipe that I use to this day. And she says, pancakes, straight up pancakes, just like at the diner at 2 a.m. 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, half a teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 2 tablespoons oil, 1/3 cup water, 1 1/4 cups plain rice or soy milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup. Oil a large skillet and preheat over medium-high heat. Sift together the flour, baking powder, salt, and cinnamon. In a separate bowl, combine all the other ingredients. Adding wet ingredients to dry, mix until just combined. Do not overmix, or the pancakes will be tough. A couple of lumps are okay. Cook pancakes until browned on the bottom and bubbles form on top, about 4 minutes. Turn the pancakes over and cook until the bottoms are brown and the pancakes are barely firm to the touch. Transfer to individual plates. Repeat with remaining batter, adding more oil to the pan as needed. So there's a very lovely basic pancake recipe for you. I also make her, she has a whole wonderful section in here of muffins and waffles, and muffins and scones. There was just a recipe for pumpkin waffles, which is another one that I have made. And I also love to make her pumpkin muffins, the best pumpkin muffins. And you can see up here in the corner, I wrote the first time I made them was on October 9th, 07. And I've probably made them hundreds of times since then. They really are the best pumpkin muffins. Let's see, what do we have in her soup section? We have carrot bisque, corn chowder, beet, barley, and black soybean soup with pumpernickel croutons, chipotle, corn, and black bean stew, roasted butternut squash soup, potato asparagus soup, white bean and roasted garlic soup, and curried split pea soup. That's another one of my favorites in this book. I have made her split pea soup many times. So this is not really a cookbook that's so much a looker as far as flashy photos or anything like that. I mean, you've basically just got page after page of, oh look, I put a smiley face on that one. Oh yeah, this is another great recipe that I make all the time. Mashed potatoes with punk rock chickpea gravy. This punk rock chickpea gravy is the gravy that I make for Thanksgiving every year, and it is so delicious. It's basically just chickpeas cooked up in a skillet with some oil and garlic and a whole bunch of spices, and you thicken it up with a little flour. I will, in fact, I'll just read you the ingredients for the punk rock chickpea gravy. 1/4 cup all-purpose flour, 2½ cups of water, a tablespoon of olive oil, 1 medium onion, quartered and thinly sliced, and then we get into all these spices, 2 teaspoons of mustard seeds, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 pinches of ground cumin, 2 pinches of paprika, pinch of dried rosemary, pinch of dried thyme, pinch of dried oregano, pinch of ground coriander, 3 tablespoons soy sauce, juice of 1 lemon, 1/4 cup nutritional yeast, and 2 cups of cooked chickpeas. So that one is definitely a classic that is still rocking on in my yearly repertoire. I make a variation on this all the time. Maple mustard glazed potatoes and string beans. It basically just taught me to make a delicious maple mustard glaze for vegetables, which I use all the time. Okay, here we go. We have a couple of photos. Here's her French toast. This is a vegan French toast, and some waffles down there in the corner. Got some other things, some matzo ball soup, some spring rolls. Oh, and then Chandra Moskowitz is very well known for her cupcakes. I also have her quintessential cookbook, Vegan Cupcakes Take Over the World. So here are her Hostess cupcakes, which look like Hostess cupcakes. And then some lemon gem cupcakes. I believe So yeah, so this book just gave me a lot of good basic ideas about cooking. And really, a lot of the recipes in this book serve as the basis for a lot of the things that I still make today. And you can see the love on this cookbook. I mean, and I have a lot of cookbooks by Chandra Moskowitz, probably like, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe more than that. I have pretty much every book she's ever come out with because she is my cooking hero. So I will definitely show you some more of her cookbooks in future videos. Okay, you know what? I think I'm just going to do one more. And this last one that I want to show you maybe is the most traceable. Maybe I should have started with this one. This is Fermented Vegetables. Creative recipes for fermenting 64 vegetables and herbs in krauts, kimchis, brined pickles, chutneys, relishes, and pastes by Kristen K. Shockey and Christopher Shockey. I love this book. I don't know if it really counts as a cookbook because you're not cooking anything, you are fermenting. But a few years ago, I got turned on to the practice and art of fermenting vegetables, of making my own sauerkraut in particular, and then making fermented pickles as well. I mean, that's how you get those sort of awesome old school New York full sour or half sour pickles, is through fermentation. And this book taught me how to do it all. So what I think is neat, particularly neat about this book, is that it goes through basically vegetable by vegetable. So there's a whole section in the beginning that gives you techniques on how to, do these fermentations properly and what equipment you'll need and all that sort of thing. And I do have some fermentation lids with little airlocks on them that I use for my fermentation rather than a crock. It keeps things simple and neat. But this book basically has the section which is fermenting vegetables from A to Z. So this book tells you how to ferment all of these vegetables: arugula, asparagus, basil, beans, beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, burdock, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celeriac, celery, chard, cilantro, collard greens, corn, cucumbers, eggplant, escarole, fennel, garlic, garlic scapes, grape leaves, horseradish, jicama, kohlrabi, leeks, mushrooms, mustard greens, okra, onions, pak choi, parsley, parsnips, peas, peppers, radicchio, radishes, rapini, rhubarb, rutabaga, scallions, shisho, spinach, sunchokes, sweet potatoes, tomatillos, tomatoes, turmeric, turnips, winter squash, and zucchini. So, because I do a farm share and get interesting vegetables every week, this has just been so helpful because if I have a little bit of something extra, I can just look up in this book and find out a way to turn it into a pickle. So this is an example, an illustration of mason jars with airlocks on them for fermenting. There are, different styles of them and different companies that make them. The one that I have looks like looks more like these two. This one's kind of got a cool extra curvy shape. But they're lids that you make your ferment in a jar. You screw the lid on top. It's got a nice, seal in there. You fill this with water, and then as it's a little tube on top here with sort of a little bobber floater thing in it, and then as things ferment and air bubbles come out, they just bubble into this water, and no oxygen can get back down in to your ferment. So I will include a link in the description to the kind that I have in case you're interested. But if you've ever wanted to try fermenting, but you were intimidated because of the, having to have a giant crock and all that sort of stuff and do it the old school way, this really gives some good alternatives. So just a lot of beautiful fermented foods. Nice big jar of kraut there. And then there are these lovely spreads throughout the book that show you many of the different, there's some garlic scapes and many of the different, some beet chutney, simple beet kraut, some chipotle squash kraut. I mean, they've got all kinds of cool recipes. My favorite recipe from this book is for lemon dill sauerkraut. It is so good. Creativity here. There's also, these are some pickled cranberries. I've never tried those. Some Brussels sprouts. I do make these fermented carrot sticks regularly. They're very good. Some cauliflower, but sauerkraut made with cauliflower. Got some pickles down there. Some preserved limes, pepper paste, dilly beans. I have made dilly beans. Lots of other little condiments over here. Yeah, so this book is just a treasure trove of information if you want to get started. It says on the back, eat live foods. Make lactofermentation part of your kitchen. A classic preserving method, the process yields nutrient-dense live foods packed with vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and probiotic goodness. Master the techniques for making sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, and fermented condiments. And then explore how to apply those simple skills to fermenting with more than 60 fresh vegetables, herbs, and even a few fruits. In addition to 140 recipes and suggestions for an intriguing array of ferments, you'll find delicious recipes that bring your creations to the table as part of any meal. And here are Kristen and Christopher Shockey. Very grateful to them for creating this amazing book. So thank you for being here with me. I hope this maybe inspired you to go get into your kitchen and make something delicious for yourself. Take good care of yourself.